Hi, my name is Mark, and I am glad you're here at _ freedom for life _ not just because I love you being a part of the channel, but because we have a conversation today that I believe you're going to want to hear. The conversation today is around one subject, and the subject is this super fast way to wipe out problems in your life. So let's get started, shall we? And as we're getting started, could you do me a favor, subscribe and become part of the Freedom family, and hit that notification bell, because if you hit the notification bell, you'll know when every conversation is happening on our channel. Hey, so how do you do it? What's the super fast way to wipe out problems in your life? What's the way that you can take your problem and get a solution where you can get that issue and that circumstance and you can overcome it, when you can get that relational issue and you can actually get that thing fixed and working and moving forward? What's the way you can solve problems in your life super quickly? It's by doing it. Doing what? Solving the problem. Come to find out, at least in my life, maybe not yours, but mine for sure, when I don't want to do something, right, it's a hard task, like preparing for my taxes, or having that awkward conversation with somebody who's hurt me, or an employee that you have to reprimand because they've done something wrong, or you've got to walk into a conversation where you've maybe done something wrong and you've got to own up to it, right? There's just a whole list of things that sometimes can make you feel uncomfortable. There's nobody I know, maybe you're not this way either. I don't know anybody who's a robot who can walk into all circumstances and situations and not feel that there's this awkwardness in it. Have you ever been there? See, the problem with problems is that it's a problem. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not something that you really love. It's not something that you really enjoy or look forward to. It's something that you have to walk through. So the problem with problems is that they're a problem. They're not something fun. They're not something exciting. They're not something great that you can walk through. There's something that you have to actually get through. So how do you do it? How do you resolve your problems? How do you do it in a super fast way that gets it done in the way that you want it to? Well, I'll give you 3 tips. The first is this: set a time for it. Something I found out in my own life, and maybe you as well, is that a fuzzy timeline to do something is no timeline at all. It's actually called procrastination. And I've been there where I don't want to make a decision to take an action, and so I kind of postpone it, I put it off, I put things in front of it, I do activities in the place of it. I put it at the back of the calendar instead of the front, and guess what happens? Time runs out before you get to it. So here's one thing to do. The first thing is this: set a time for it, a definite time that you will do it. Because in that place, you give yourself a prompting, you give yourself a little push to move forward with it and to be able to walk out that problem, that challenge. Nobody wants to do them. I'm sure you don't, and I don't either. But when you can get to them, when you can put them on a calendar and be accountable to that calendar, now all of a sudden, that's something that you can do to resolve it in a super fast way. Which leads to the second one. And the second one is this: take action quickly. Have you ever been there where you need to make an awkward phone call, and so you're at your desk, and so you clean your desk and you look at your emails and you check for voicemails, or you want to be in a conversation with somebody, so instead of doing that you go clean the house, or you make your bed, or you start your lawn, right? There's these tasks that we put in front of ourselves. So it's not just setting a time, but it's taking that action quickly. It's doing it now, right? It's taking, as Tony Robbins would say, massive action towards your goal. And so when I get to that point, when that thing is on my calendar and I've reached the time I'm supposed to do it, instead of putting it off, postponing, hedging, waiting, convincing yourself that you need to, telling yourself in your head you shouldn't do it, instead of doing all that, just like jumping into a swimming pool, do it now. Give yourself a time and do it immediately. If you do it immediately, all of a sudden, now you're just in the middle of it and you walk through it, instead of doing that horrible death by 1,000 cuts of just having all those thoughts and all those fears and all those anxious moments building up to something that if you would have just done it would have been so much easier. So the first is set a time and actually stick to that time. The second is do it now. Don't sit down to do it. Don't get in a conversation to do it and wait and hesitate and hem and haw. Do it immediately. The third is this: grace. Give grace continuously. When I walk into a problem, if it's with somebody else, if I walk in giving them grace ahead of the conversation, all of a sudden it makes for a better conversation. If I walk into a problem and I'm the one that has to own up to something I'm doing wrong, or I have to fix a mistake I've made, if I give myself grace walking into it, it'll be less of a weapon to use against me. At the end of the day, whoever's involved in the challenge, the problem, the issue that's going on, if you give yourself grace in the middle of it, you give yourself permission to de-escalate your emotions and to walk through the thing that you want to walk through without all the stress associated with it. The super fast way to wipe out every problem in your life is set an agenda, put it on a calendar, get a time for it, and stick to that time. Do it immediately. When it's time for that thing to happen, that thing happens. When it's time to go to the gym, I'm getting up and I'm going to the gym. I'm not looking at a show or checking out my social media for a while. You're doing it immediately. And the third thing is give grace. If it's somebody else you need to address, give grace to them. If it's you that needs to fix something that you've done, give grace to yourself. If you do those three things, you'll find that your problems and challenges actually get fixed quickly, and you'll create a habit of success in your life. You'll create a habit of being a person who's a person of action, who's doing stuff instead of somebody waiting. You'll be a person that people can have confidence in because there's somebody that actually takes care of their life in a way that looks like life mastery. If you do this, you'll have amazing results. Hey, I'm Mark. I'm glad you're here at _freedom4life_. Do me a favor and hit that like button if you're a person who has solved problems, needs to solve problems, or avoids problems like some of us do some of the time. And in the comments, let me know what problems or challenges you're actually walking out right now. Share this video with somebody who you know has actually kind of him and hawed with something that you know they're better than. And do me a favor, down below we have a link to our course, Life Mastery, the course to help you to figure out who am I created to be so I can have the life I'm created for and solve the problems that stand in the way. And there's a link to our book, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default. Get a copy of that. It's a framework for you to live out a life mastery life in a way that you couldn't have even imagined. And at the end of the day, if you do nothing else, dominate your day.